Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 68. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian. As always, I'm joined by Dory. How you doing, Dory?
Seb, I can't even tell you what a thrill it is to be on this podcast with you, in silence and glory in the night. What a thrill. But you're so supreme. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Snake Eater, and we're going to be talking about Lost Soul Aside, and we're also going to be talking about First Light. And I won't sing anymore, I promise. I know the views will tank if I keep singing, but I just wanted to do a little bit because the song's so good. And just if you're curious, the ladder does take about 1 minute and 45 seconds to climb up. I know every speedrunner wishes they could skip that, but maybe they don't because the music is so good. Anyway, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. It's a very straightforward episode, but lots of gameplay news from First Light Showcase that we'll dig into. And of course, a couple of spotlights to keep us busy too. So hope everyone's enjoying the late summer / early fall. It pretty much is spooky season, depending on who you ask. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, I'm also excited to talk about what we got to talk about today.
Yeah, it sure feels like spooky season now that I'm playing Chronos: The New Dawn, which we'll talk about next week. And it's definitely creating that Halloween vibe now because it feels like a great game for this time of the year. All right, let's get started with the state of play that was on 007 First Light, which is created by IO Interactive, the people that make the Hitman games. And boy, did this game look a lot like a Hitman game for the most part. I mean, I would say it was a combination of Hitman and Uncharted. So let's talk about what they showed. So the first thing they did was gave us a total gameplay showcase of the first mission in the game. So we got to see that was a third-person action game, which we knew already. We got to see the visuals, which I thought looked pretty impressive. Like the character models still look a little off. Like they're still like Hitman character models. You know what I mean? They kind of like Barbie dolls in a way, but it's not like hyper realistic like Last of Us or anything. But it's fine. It's nothing I would complain about. They show how big the levels were. I mean, those are probably the biggest levels they've ever made, I want to say. I mean, that right off the bat, like driving to the hotel was quite big. There was a whole driving section. Now, I don't know if that was just like a set piece, and maybe like I don't know how big the levels are really going to be, but for what they showed, it was pretty big. And the whole mission was apparently looking for an agent called a 009. So I'm assuming
I really want to think, by the way, that they're making the fucking math joke that 6 was afraid of 7 because 7, 8, 9. That's what I was thinking of when I was like, oh man, 7's gonna kill 9, and then I was thinking about the math joke. But anyway, go check out that game changer bit. But yeah, this looked really impressive. Go ahead.
So let's start with the actual stealth in the game. So in the showcase they showed of the first mission, they had James, a young James. He's got to be like in his 20s or maybe early 30s. I want to see like late 20s.
I think they said 26, but I could be wrong.
Okay, I could see. Yeah, he definitely looks like very young. And they did a couple things to get into the upper window because he couldn't get by the guard. So what he did is he made one of the guards sick, and then he got a lighter and then threw it in leaves in a trash can to distract the other guard, and then he climbed up into the window, and then he kind of like talked his way out of getting in trouble, which I thought was interesting. So right off the bat, they showed how different you can tackle the levels in your own way, like the Hitman games, right? It's exactly like the Hitman games. I mean, this game pretty much feels like a Hitman game, like not in terms of all the combat and big action pieces, but like in the actual stealth sections, it felt like a Hitman game. What did you think
in terms of like trying to solve geography and making that like a puzzle?
Yeah,
that you need to like work your way through. It absolutely felt like a Hitman game in a good way.
Yeah, so what did you think of like the stealth and everything from what you saw of the first mission only? Of like
I mean it looked solid to me. Hitman's one of my favorite stealth games, so if it's built on the back of that, then I'm already sold on that aspect.
Yeah,
I loved that there was multiple ways that you could go in. You could, cause one guard to get sick and then burn these plants and stuff and then go down the ledge and yada yada. But they also noted in a developer interview later on that IGN did that you could also just simply swipe someone's invitation, pretend to be someone else, use some of your focus and charm to go through. And then there was a couple of other methods besides that. So it's and I like the fact as one commenter noted on YouTube that if James gets caught, it's not immediately game over or anything like that, right? It's he makes an excuse, like the one he makes for when he's coming through the window, is that he's a penetration tester. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna just let that sit. But it's a lot better of an alternative than just like mission failed,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more engaging to me. I always liked that in the Hitman games, you don't fail when you're caught. You just have to improv, right? You have to improvise.
Right.
And so it looks like they're bringing that back. I don't know how much it extends, though. At what point is the mission just foobar
Right.
and like you just can't recover it,
Yep.
and you have to like go one way or another on the mission, or it restarts you, or you hit a checkpoint, or go back to a checkpoint, or whatever. I don't know. That remains unclear. But at least to some degree, there's flexibility. You don't fail immediately if you get caught, which I liked.
Yeah, they showed that more emphasis on that in the second part of the state of play. Like they basically rewinded the section and showed you how to tackle it in different ways. So we'll get into that in that part. The next thing they showed in this first mission was the car chase. So it went straight from like a stealth mission to an action sequence, which felt very Uncharted like. There was a lot of driving through like obstacles and taking shortcuts, and there was like a slow mo cam when he was doing like a big trick, a big jump, and I thought this section was really cool. I really enjoyed the combat of when he started shooting, because you can actually kill people when you get the permission to do so. He was shooting barrels, a lot of barrels and a lot of explosions everywhere.
A lot of barrels, a lot of explosions.
And they looked pretty. The explosions looked really nice, and there was a lot of destruction looked nice, and he was able to blow up cars like Grand Theft Auto by shooting it at them. And it was cool how he was able to throw the guns at the soldiers to stun them,
Yes.
and then take the guns away from them. And I thought the melee combat was really cool with the soldiers' guns. I thought the combat looked really smooth. Like it looked fun. There was issues with the frame rate, which we'll talk about, but the actual gameplay itself is so up my alley because I'm a huge fan of third-person action games. Like this is my favorite genre in video games. Actually, that's why Uncharted is one of my favorite series. And this is so me coded overall. Like I'm not the biggest fan of stealth like in the Hitman series, but if you combine that with action sequences, I'm cool with that. Because then it's more like Uncharted than just a Hitman game. So, what did you think of the third-person combat?
I loved it. The mix of being able to use your surroundings, grabbing enemies, punching enemies, using guns. The way that he kind of just like, I think at one point the developer points out that he kicks a shotgun that he picks up from the ground into his hand, and then you could just immediately fire it, and that's just so like James Bond.
Yeah.
Like Dory lore, I guess, but I grew up with James Bond. I loved a lot of the movies as a young kid.
Right.
I haven't watched many of them growing up because many complicated reasons of why James Bond hasn't aged in certain ways very well. The newer films, of course, are a little better about that, but if you know, you know. But I grew up playing them. I'm pretty sure I played some GoldenEye. And then I also played Everything or Nothing, which was one of my favorite PS2 games, very underrated. And had a lot of fun with those games. And so that's the reason why I'm so excited. The inner James Bond fan in me is just like ecstatic that this is A, getting made, B, looks this good. Yeah, there's some frame stuff, we'll talk about it, but in general, looks very promising, and it still has 6 months to go. Like they still have 6 months to fine tune and tweak and make this look even better. Yeah. And I can't remember Hitman coming out in a bad state ever. Like I'm sure they did patches, I'm sure it wasn't perfect, but I never remember IO being one of those companies where it's like, oh, well, they always release games in a bad state. Like I don't remember 1, 2, or 3 of the Hitman trilogy or World of Assassination as a complete package ever having serious technical issues. I could be wrong about that, but that's my memory of it.
I only think it was an issue when a lot was happening on screen, because like the Hitman games don't have that. They don't have giant action pieces like that. This game was going full like cinematic action movie at times. Like when he was chasing the plane, it got really like over the top in a fun way, right? I mean, they could have shot him at any moment. Like, yeah, he could have died. He probably should have died.
He probably should have died there. Yeah, absolutely.
But
he's very reckless. This is as Seb said, this is a younger Bond. This is the youngest Bond that we've ever seen.
Yeah,
they've taken a lot of inspiration from Fleming's original books. Not so much the films, but the original books that the films were based on.
Yeah,
and this is the youngest Bond we've ever seen in any media ever. I think prior to this, the youngest was maybe him being in his 30s or 40s. But here he's like in his mid 20s, late 20s. I don't even think he's 30 yet. And so he's got this brashness and arrogance. And the developer says, and I keep saying the developer, I apologize, I don't remember his name, but one of the IO senior, members is basically saying like he's got charm, he just doesn't know how to weaponize it like he does in the film. So, women will think that he's attractive. There's one point where one of the maids says that she would love to leave an extra mint on his pillow or something like that. But he doesn't really realize yet that he's got that kind of innate charm with the ladies.
Yeah, but you could tell it was like one of their first times with like big action cinematic kind of games like this, because once a lot was happening on screen, the frame rate started to drop like crazy. Especially when he was on the plane and you were able to control the plane using QuickTime events. When all the debris was flying everywhere, man, that frame rate was bad. It dropped massively. Like, it looked rough. I ain't gonna lie. Not enough to like ruin the game for me or anything like that, but it was definitely rough. And you can tell they're no Naughty Dog, which is, there's only one Naughty Dog, which is like one of the greatest developers in the world, right? Like they make the best games, arguably. So that's not a fair comparison, but at the same time, you can kind of tell when a difference between Uncharted 2, giant cinematic set piece, or Uncharted 4 rather, and this one. But it looked like a fun action game, so I'm not complaining about that. But it definitely was there. Did you notice the frame rate, like how much it dropped?
I struggled to notice this. A lot of people were being like, "Oh, 007 frames," or which is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, pretty good. But I didn't really notice it. But I think when it was on the plane, I noticed it. I'm so terrible at noticing these kind of things when people complain about it. There's also the issue of like video compression that could have been causing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're probably right that it is just IO's lack of experience with big dramatic flashy scenes. Like even in Hitman's biggest moments, they're very personal, right? Because he's a hitman, he's not an agent. There is some overlap, of course, between being an agent and being a hitman, but Hitman's obviously a lot more freewheeling than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't notice it as much as some people did. Other people did. But I mean, it makes sense that it would happen.
Yeah, but what was it recorded on? A PS5 or a PS5 Pro? Did it say?
I don't remember what it said.
Okay, so like, it could also just be a PS5 issue too. Like, so I'm gonna be playing on my 4080 PC, so it might run really smooth on my PC. I mean, I don't know, right? It's running on a PS5, so I know PS5 Pro hasn't been super impressive with some games. Like Metal Gear Solid doesn't run the greatest on PS5 Pro, so that could be a factor too, because this was running on PlayStation. Obviously, they're showing it off on PlayStation because it was a state of play. It was a PlayStation show, so we'll see. But again, it didn't ruin it for me or anything like that. I just thought it was kind of when all the explosions were happening and a lot of things were happening on screen. Like when he was riding that when he was driving that truck to get on the plane, like you can definitely see the stuttering and all the things going on. Because the Hitman games.
Well, and the other thing I think too is important to point out is that this is like, from what I hear, and I'm not like, I don't work in the industry obviously, but from what I understand, that kind of thing is stuff that they iron out last, right? Or at least one of the last things they iron out.
Sure.
It's why you see so many games come out with poor optimization, because optimization is a patching thing, right? It's not this huge. Sure. Generally speaking, not this huge undertaking that you have to do. You don't have to completely rework the foundation of your game. You just need to add like some more pillars and stuff like that to make it run a little more smoothly, right?
Right.
And so it's usually a patching issue at worst.
Sure.
So, and with them having 6 more months in IO's history of, releasing Hitman generally in a good state, I'm not super concerned. That's where I kind of got frustrated. Where I was seeing people like rag on IO because like it had bad frame rate when things got really hectic. I'm like, it's got 6 months to come out, like, and they could always delay it. Like they have plenty of time to fix this up. I don't see the need to be worried. Is it something to look at? Is it something to notice and comment on? Absolutely. Like it's not something you should ignore.
Yeah.
But I'm also not worried about it. Now, if we see the game again in 4 months and it's exactly the same, yes, then I will be concerned. Like, then I'll be like, okay, either we're delaying this or we're not seeing the issue.
Right.
I saw somebody say that IO has acknowledged the frame rate issue. But I looked this up and I couldn't find any evidence that that was true.
I'm sure they're
But
aware.
that doesn't mean it's not true. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
my experience.
Everybody, including developers, are online, so like, I'm sure they see the reaction
Yeah.
online. So I'm sure they're aware. All right, let's move on to the gala mission now. So they switched to another mission, and once again, they showcased how you can tackle how to get to a certain waypoint in different ways. And in this particular mission, they showed James listening to a conversation, which helped him accomplish his mission. So he pretended to be like a photographer, and he had the lady escort him behind the guards into the room. And then they showcase all the stealth mechanics, like what his gadgets he can use. He said it showed that he can distract the enemies using like a gadget. It showed him being able to sabotage a door, so he locked the guy in a closet. So I thought that was a cool mechanic. The lasers can distract enemies. You can actually shoot down like a chandelier on people, or shoot down a fan to distract people. You can do like a smoke device, like Batman kind of thing, to confuse the enemies and then stealth them, or walk by them. You can use a dart phone to knock people out. You can also even talk your way out of things. You can use your charisma and have dialogue and trick people into thinking you're supposed to be there. He does that. They do showcase that, where he's talking to the guards. He's pretending like he's like ahead of the guards. He's like, "Oh, there's a guy disguised as a guard. Keep an eye out," and they fall for it. I thought it was cool how they like would show something and then rewind it, and then show something and rewind it to show you all the ways you can tackle it. So I thought that was cool. And then of course you have the when you get the license to kill. That's when James can kill the enemies, and he can use the same exact gadgets in combat as well as stealth. So I thought that was cool as well. You can use all the environments around you to fight the enemies, and they had a cool like slow mo instincts in the combat as well. Like it was kind of like Max Payne kind of thing.
Yep.
So overall, I thought the gameplay that they showed was quite cool. The only thing I didn't like was there was a lot of motion blur. I don't know if it was the showcase, if it was the console, if it was the video compression, but there was a lot of video. There was a lot of motion blur. Like when he was fighting the enemies, it looked blurry. Like the character models, it was something off about it. And I hate motion blur, so I always turn it off. Did you notice?
Yeah. Same.
Did you notice the motion blur, or again?
Again, another thing I didn't really notice, and I looked pretty closely, and yeah, it's just not something that really registers for me. But it's absolutely something when I'm playing a game, I absolutely notice. But when I'm watching a game, for some reason, there's some disconnect
Yeah.
between me
Yeah.
and the footage I'm seeing.
It was mainly when he was fighting the soldiers, like when they were showcasing the gameplay, like when in combat. And
Yeah.
he's like doing like he's fighting like the armored guys, because you fight like you
Yeah.
fight different types of people. You fight like people in full armor, and then the people not in armor. And when he was fighting people in armor, like their motion blur looked weird. It was blurry,
Gotcha.
but it wasn't like oh my god, this looks terrible. It was just
Sure.
definitely concerning. So that's pretty much all they showed. So the main thing I got out of this showcase was this looks like a good game. I think it's going to be a good game. Do I think it's going to be like a 9.5, 9 out of 10 kind of game for me? This game feels like it's going to be 8 out of 10. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's a great score. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like a masterpiece to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is like going to be like the marquee Uncharted 4 level, you know what I mean? Kind of action game. But it definitely looks like a good game, and I think I'm gonna really enjoy it probably. So that's what I got out of it. I thought it looks like a good game. I'm gonna have fun with it. It's probably not gonna blow me away, but I'm gonna have a good time with it.
I want to say one last thing too.
Sure.
Is that the gimmick in the plane where you could move all the cargo by because you hacked the plane apparently, and you could just like tilt it to the left or to the right, and so you could kill guys with cargo and stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting and innovative in a way in terms of like mixing up the combat, so it's not just shoot, take cover, shoot, take cover, right? And I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we've been doing that for a long time now, like 20 years. So obviously probably longer, but really got popularized in the mid 2000s with Gears of War and Uncharted. But anyway, so it's good to have those little gimmicks to mix things up. And so I hope they keep doing that throughout the game. But yeah, I left very impressed overall, very hopeful. I was a big Bond fan growing up. and liked some of the games, and so I'm really excited for a new one to finally come out, and hopefully for it to do some justice to the franchise.
Yeah, I feel like I've only played GoldenEye. Like I think I've played one James Bond game after that, but GoldenEye obviously being like a marquee, one of the major pillars of like a '90s kid, right? Like that's one of the greatest games ever made, top 20 game for me. But I don't think I ever played another James Bond game. Now that I think about it, I grew up with the movies and the books myself, but yeah, I never played another James Bond game. So this is I love it's tailor made for a video game, so it's perfect for a video game. And
Yeah,
the people that made Hitman, it just works perfectly, right? Like it just because James Bond is basically Agent 47, just a bit more of a personality and a womanizer and things like that. But
right.
same concept. And it comes out March 27th on 2026. I don't know if they ever gave us a release date before, but there it is. That's the release date, March 27th, 2026. All right, so let's move on to our spotlights, starting with Lost Soul Aside, which has been in development for like a decade, and it definitely shows it. But I'll let Dory start it off with the pros, and I'll talk about my pros, and then we'll get into the negatives, the many
Yeah,
negatives.
many. So I want to make one thing clear, right? Seb and I are gonna talk a lot of we're gonna say a lot of negative things about this game, but I wanna get one thing clear at the start. I think it's super awesome and really inspiring in a way, right? That all of this came from just one guy, and he was able to get 40 people and eventually get the backing of Sony. Whatever you want to say about the quality of the game, we have a lot to say about. I do think it's cool that this happened. It finally came out that this was all from one guy's vision. I'm not saying the vision was great, but it was there, and he was able to execute it in one way or another. I do think that's really cool. I think that's worth bringing attention to, and I think that's an inherently good thing for the industry that this kind of game can come out.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I wanted to say that
yeah,
too because I genuinely feel bad for the guy. Because
yeah,
cause I heard a lot of things happen to him. Like he lost his relationship or whatever to this too. Like he sacrificed so much for this game, and like
yeah.
you can see it in his face and everything. Like he looked like he was worn out. I don't know how
Yeah,
true all this is. That's what I read on Twitter and stuff. But people were saying,
I also heard, and again, I don't know how true this is either, so reckless speculation time, but that Sony did a lot of pressuring to make this come out, and that it wasn't really ready. But at this point, he felt like it had to come out. It was now or never sort of
sure,
thing. So a bad spot for him to be in,
yeah,
and I feel for him.
yeah,
But ultimately, it is what it is, and it's
yeah,
we'll talk about it.
yeah. Start with the pros though.
But we'll start with the pros. The game, at least from a distance, looks very nice. Locations look very pretty. Things pop. They look nice. I didn't see anything. The certain alternate dimensions look very sleek. Obviously, they look kind of repetitive, but they look sleek and they're fun to look at. In small doses. Combat is the biggest pro by far. It's, I would say, very fun for the first 10 hours, maybe. And maybe very fun is kind of pushing it, but it's fun for the first 10 hours. I had a good time with it, genuinely. And if it was not for the combat, I would have stopped playing this within the first hour or two. So that's how strong the combat is. I genuinely think that this guy really wanted to make a combat focused game and then just felt like he had to make a Final Fantasy-esque story to put with it. But I think his heart was more in one than the other. But regardless, combat's really cool. You could switch between weapons in the middle of combos. I didn't do that a lot. I never do that a lot. I always like having the option, but I never think to do it. I am always worried that I'm going to mess it up. It's just simpler to me to just keep it to one weapon per combo instead of trying to get all fancy and trying to it's not like you get scored in Devil May Cry. But anyway, the burst moves are varied, and they, like Seb said in his notes, very fun to look at. I eventually settled on a tree that would give you some health, and a couple other burst moves that were like more offense based. I can't remember what the fuck they were. Some of the boss designs were really cool, and some of the boss fights in general were, towards the beginning of the game, especially, were fun, and especially when you have to fight human-sized enemies, it felt really cool to kind of go mano a mano. Um, Zana, I liked Zana as a character. I thought she was neat. I'm not saying she's winning any awards, uh, but I liked her, and the dev knew what they were doing with her, I guess is how I'll put that. And then I already said the thing about how it's impressive this was one guy's vision. Seb, anything you want to add to the pros that I have not mentioned?
Well, I do want. Hold on. You hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so I do want to add on to things you already said, just to expand upon it a little more. So, like, for example, the visuals in this game, I think, are really pretty. I think that's one of the best parts of this game, is they definitely went really far with the visuals. Like, for considering it's like a small team, like, what, 40 people, the visuals look very nice. They look a AAA 2025 game, and they definitely try very hard to show it off, because there's a lot of set pieces in this game where they really try to show you, like, oh wow, look at the beautiful landscape. They pan the camera. Oh, they like, oh, look at the beautiful castle, and they show it. So this game is definitely pretty. The particle effects, the visuals in this game are very nice. I think that's one of the best parts of the game. The combat is the best part. Is the best part of the game, period. Though, but it's not as good as Devil May Cry. Not even close. But it's quite fun. Unlike Dory, I actually do switch weapons mid-fight, because it feels like the DMC game, the Ninja Team Ninja made it, or Ninja Theory or something like that. They that the DMC reboot that people don't like. That game had fun gameplay, even though the story was stupid. The game itself was really fun to play. And this game reminds me of that, in terms of like the way you can switch weapons mid-fight. And the burst moves are all fun to look. As Dory said, the burst moves are all fun to look at, and they're really fun to do, and try which ones you like and stuff like that. And I think the boss fights in this game look really cool. I thought the boss fights were. I have issues with them, but the visuals of them were cool. And I really like that you can. I know this is controversial with PC players, but I like that you can connect your PlayStation account to this game and get trophies on PC. So you can actually get all your PlayStation 5 trophies on PC. So that was cool as well. And that's pretty much it. And the music was pretty good, but nothing memorable. I have a lot of negatives about this game. I don't hate this game, but I was definitely wanting to move on by a certain point, as we'll talk about. So I'm trying not to be negative, but yeah, my pros are very limited. The visuals and the combat were the two good parts of this game. So, you want me to kick off the negatives, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first just to keep it consistent. Okay. Plus, I think I have a lot more negative to say than you do.
All right, go ahead.
But yeah, so similar to Seb, I don't like being negative. I don't. I've played some games this year that haven't blown me away, and I typically don't talk about them just because I don't like to be a negative person. But this was hyped up a lot by Sony, and I know there are some people online who are like, "Oh, this always looked like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10," and like, I mean, you could think that. I personally thought it always looked like an 8 out of 10 to me. Not amazing, and not fantastic. It's not going to win Game of the Year, but I thought it looked solid. The combat looked amazing. The story we didn't know a lot about, but it was rescuing your sister, which felt like it had personal stakes.
Well, the trailer was fire. The trailer was really good. They made it. They made it look good. They made it look really good.
Yeah, they made it look so good. And then what we got, and I know we've been burying the lead, is not a very good game. I'm sorry to say it. It feels super outdated. I have a lot of cons that I added on to Seb's cons, so I think I'll tackle mine, and then Seb can tackle his.
Okay.
The writing is just a mess. It's bad. I mean, it's just straight up bad. I frequently just stared out into the distance. And when characters were talking about the plot, and I was like, I could write a better game than this. Yeah, I could write a better game than this.
Let me my cons are similar to yours as well, so I'll just jump on yours as well. Like, yeah, the writing in this game is awful.
Yeah,
the story is so blah and generic and boring, and the characters are pretty much bland and generic and boring.
Yeah,
this feels like we have Final Fantasy at home.
This is Wish.com Final Fantasy 16.
This is great value. This is what Walmart. Walk into Walmart. You want a $50 TV. This is Timu.
Yep.
This is Timu Final Fantasy.
Yep. It's all those things. It on such a basic level, the writing fails. I could count a few times in the game where a character is saying something and I'm not actually 100% sure who they're talking to. That's how bad the writing is. Like Arena will sometimes, that's your dragon in the game, who is sometimes fun. He's the only character, I agree with Seb, who's like any fun at all.
Yeah, I like him.
Because he gets to be snarky.
Yeah.
But there's like, I remember there was a time where he like made an offhand comment during combat. And I'm like, are you talking to them? They're dead. Are you talking to me? That doesn't make any sense. Are you talking to yourself? I guess that makes sense, but it's confused. Like just on a basic level, the writing is so bad that you can find these little small instances that in isolation would mean anything, right? I wouldn't give a shit. But it's just like stunning lack of just like vision in terms of like who the fuck is talking to who and why should I care? Like the other problem with the game is that the plot is so noun filled. And what I mean by that is every sentence has this abstract noun from this particular world that does this amount of world building in quotes. And it just sucks. It sucks to listen to. It sucks to read. I spaced out so many times. Again, just thinking to myself, this game has cured me, not really, of imposter syndrome. Because I'm like, I could write a fucking script better than this. I'm not saying it would be amazing. I'm not saying it'd be Last of Us. I'm not any of that. But it wouldn't be this. It would be better than this. I know that I'm sure some of it, to be generous, maybe issues in translation. Because I know the creator is from China, I want to say. And I don't know how strong his English is, and it's only a team of 40. But even being incredibly generous, they had 11 years. And even if they didn't have 11 years, the team of 40 had 5 years. And if you can't, on such a basic level, make your writing appealing, then there is like a fundamental issue with the writing in general.
Especially when Expedition 33 had a similar size team and made a masterpiece in Game of the Year contender. So I could be a translation problem, but I think the story itself is just not good. It's just not good. Even for Asian, even if it was like in Chinese, it would still be bad, I think.
And the problem here, one of the biggest problems is they pull, ironically, a Final Fantasy 16, where they have this personal like plot that you can invest yourself in, and you can, excuse me, that you can kind of like get yourself into just a certain degree. And then they just immediately replace that with like, aliens are falling from the sky. We don't know who they are, but surprise, they've been here all along. And they go from galaxy to galaxy. And the one you're fighting with is a good one, but every single other one is a bad one. But don't worry, they're not all bad. We're not being racist or whatever.
Dan to Dan if it was bad, basically.
Oh, God. I didn't even think about that. But it's like they go from this like, we're launching a rebellion against the Emperor, which inherently I'm like, fuck yeah, to like, here's this abstract random alien that comes out of nowhere. Yeah. And like down the line, you work with the Emperor, and spoilers, like he betrays, like it's just so, it's so by the numbers. And it's not inherently bad to have tropish writing. It's the details that matter, right? Like nothing's new under the sun, yada, yada. But I mean, this is so tropish, so bad. Like the sister who is comatose and you need to save her. And I don't know, the writing between her and her brother is kind of weird to me. I'm going to leave it at that. It was kind of weird the way that they talked to each other. I'm sure it's just like a translation thing, but I was getting kind of weird vibes. I'm like, I'm glad she doesn't have a lot of lines. It's weird.
It's funny you say that because I thought it was his girlfriend. I wasn't paying. I missed like one part where he was like my sister. So like for the first like hour, I thought it was his girlfriend, and he had to rescue her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The way they were talking to each other, I'm like, are we sure? Anyway.
Yeah.
The other major problem besides the plot and story, which is just terrible, is the length of the game for me. This should not have been 15 hours. This should have been 10 hours max. The game is so padded because, to piggyback off something Seb is going to say, the enemies just have too much health. They have too much health. And then they have a huge shield bar, or a stagger gauge or stance, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And then sometimes later in the game, you have these enemies that swallow other enemies in like these force fields, and then you can't get to the main enemy until you kill the smaller enemies, but you can't kill the smaller enemies until you get past the smaller enemies. And then the big enemy uses the smaller enemy to fucking heal. Like, what are we doing? Like that's 20 steps, and it's not even a boss. Like, eventually that just becomes a regular enemy that you're supposed to fight. And it's like, it's so fucking tedious, man.
Yeah.
It's so fucking tedious.
This game has way too much padding. Like, this game could easily been like 10 hours at most, and it turned to be a 15+ hour game. Like, it was like, I think it took me like 18 hours to beat it. I want to say 17, 18 hours. And
yeah, it took me about the same.
Yeah, so it was way too padded. There was puzzles that were stupid. They were easy to solve, and they were just a waste of my time. There was bosses that had too many health bars. There was too many sections where you fight a boss back to back to back to back, and it was just so boring and tedious. It just wasn't fun. The boss fights themselves weren't bad. It was just because they had so much health, it got old after a while. You know what I mean? Like, it's not if they just made them regular size boss, like a regular like a normal size health bar, it would have been fine. But because they gave them like 3 health bars, it was ridiculous. And then Dory mentioned some of them have like health, like they can heal themselves mechanics, which I always hate with bosses.
Yeah.
And it was just extremely tedious, and it was just not fun. And there was times where like, enemies were like invincible, and you had to do a mechanic and stuff, and it was just it didn't add to anything. It was just dumb. It's one of the worst parts of the game.
It was poor design. The level design just felt really bad. Like, every time they would try to break things up by introducing plot, I'd be like, no, I don't want any of that. Oh. And then they would try to introduce puzzles, and I'm like, I don't really want this, but like, okay.
Yeah.
And like, the puzzles were either, like you said, a waste of time or not substantial enough to feel worth it, right? I never really felt smart doing it. I just felt like it was tedious.
Yeah. Especially the part, especially one of them where you had to like smack the orb out of a.
I was just thinking about that.
That was annoying.
Yeah,
it was like too fast because it would fall back in too fast. Like, I'm doing a combo and this combo is not working. And
I had to switch. I think I had to switch to the scythe, which is another thing I want to talk about. So there's 4 different weapons in the game, right? You have a great sword, a regular sword, a scythe, and
like a javelin,
a spear, a javelin, whatever.
Yeah.
And you would think that'd be a good amount of variety, especially because there's a skill tree and all that stuff. But I mean, because of all this padding, by hour 10 or 11, I was pretty tapped out on the combat. I was like, look, this is good, but it's not good enough to justify all this combat again and again and again. There's too many mini bosses. There's too many bosses. There's just too much combat.
Yeah.
There's just too much. This game needed to be almost cut in half.
Yeah.
To be more appreciable.
Yeah, because this game is pretty much like Devil May Cry, like the same level structure. Like, besides, the only thing that doesn't have is a score. But like, you know, it will like, it locks you in an area like God of War or Devil May Cry where you have to fight the enemies to progress. And Devil May Cry knows when to like do a cinematic and make the game more contained and small and shorter. This game like turned Devil May Cry. Even Devil May Cry would be boring. Like, let's say Devil May Cry 5, which is a great game, right? Even that game will get boring after a while if it was like 20 hours, right?
It's the pacing. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
A couple other things I want to mention. There's bad checkpointing in certain areas. There's like times because the fights are so poorly paced and so tedious. If you fail it, you have to go all the way back and then start all the way over. Like, they never checkpoint a boss ever. And there's this bullshit mechanic, like really late in the game, which Seb might know what I'm talking about, through like one of the last fights when you're fighting with Arena, where like you share health, and that never comes up before, and it never comes up again after. And it made me fucking rage. Because I was like, this is so stupid. Like, Arena has never died, and therefore I die.
Yeah.
Like, it's so dumb.
Yeah, there was like a Star Fox section, which I really didn't like. as
Yeah, I
well.
didn't like that either. I was so close to dying, and I was like, if you die at any of those big action moments,
Yeah.
you have to go all the way back to the beginning.
You know,
There's no checkpointing at all.
that's
It's
what
crazy.
that's what I was thinking of, because I was that Star Fox section. I died the first time because I didn't even realize there was a health bar until like halfway through it. I'm like, oh shit, I was getting hit
Oh,
this whole time, and then I
yeah,
died, and I'm like seriously making me just all the way back again. I mean, I did it on the second try. It wasn't a huge deal,
right.
but it was definitely like an issue because the checkpoints in this game are definitely an issue. Like you have to go. It'd be fine if it was like the autosave was like where it's supposed to be, but like the autosave in this game is really random in random spots.
Yeah, it's not good. And Liana is just no help. There were certain times. I will say this: it's nice that the game gives you these items that make you take less damage and do more damage. At one point, because Liana, basically your save point, just refused to show up anywhere, and I was really low on health. I put it up all the way to like amulet level 3 or some shit. I still barely got to Liana and saved, but like there was no hard save, and that's another problem with the game. You almost always have to hard save unless it auto saves for you. You can't manual save ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like this is not fucking. Even when Kingdom Hearts did this 6 years ago, in Kingdom Hearts 3, I was critical about that, and I was like, it's been 6 years. I do not know why we're doing manual saves. The other thing I want to mention, side characters feel underutilized. There's this character that could just teleport you to seemingly anywhere, and for no reason, basically at all. She's just relegated to being the nerdy, quiet, introverted archaeologist. Actually, one of the characters asked what an archaeologist is, which I was like, shouldn't they know what an archaeologist? And then the answer she gives isn't even a good one. It very poorly explains what archaeologist.
We're talking about the lady with the purple hair, right?
Yeah, Gefia or whatever.
Yeah, like she was like the love interest to the main character.
Kind of. It was kind of ambivalent whether Zana or Gefia or he had a harem going on.
She falls on.
I don't really.
No, because she like there's like a part where she falls on him, and then she's like, "You're very comfy cushion" or something like that. And it was like it was some tension there. I was like, "Oh, are they building something here?" And they never did anything.
No, it never did. And she's just never used until the end of the game because I guess she's a gifted one, which is like their version of like mutants or whatever. And but she's not very strong, so they want to keep her out of danger. But she can literally teleport in a matter of seconds to literally anywhere, and they just never use her. And then Zana, who I said before I thought was kind of cool, they barely ever use her. She goes away, and then she comes back. But here's one of the funniest fucking things. I have to point this out. So they tease that there are 5 locations in the game, right? They tease that from almost the get-go. They use 4 of the locations. The 5th one never comes up. It's never mentioned. They just completely drop it. I realized that this was going to happen when I was like, I had like an hour or 2 hours left in the game. I'm like, wait a second. This isn't enough time for a 5th location, the magma level. What is going on? Like, okay, so maybe they're going to write it off. Gefia's going to come back. She's like, oh, I found the blah, blah, blah. Like, now the fucking Deus Machina thing. Like, now we can just go to the final boss. No, they just skip it entirely. It never gets shown. You never go to the volcano area. They build it up a little bit throughout the game. It's never brought up again. They never mention. I've never seen that level of incompetence in a game in a while, and it just took my breath away. Because all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we found the final MacGuffin." That's what I was looking for, not Deus Ex Machina, but you understand what I meant. But we found the final MacGuffin. Now we can go after the end boss. The end boss, by the way, who is, and I'm sorry to use this word, a total bitch, is a total coward. Never confronts you. Always
runs away.
He's always runs away.
The whole game.
They're trying to build him as this powerful, imposing force. And he's just Fantasy Fabio over here, who I always call him Fantasy Fabio. I did the same thing, and I can't remember what the game's called, but I did the same thing last year when we had to fight Fantasy Fabio. But
wasn't that
Mana, right?
Visions of Mana.
Visions of Mana. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So he just constantly runs away. Bravely Sir Robin runs away, and he just he doesn't fight until like the very end of the game, and even then, you're in like such a super powered state that he's just a laughing stock. So it's just, oh man, there's so many problems with this game. It's, I mean, it's a 6 out of 10, but it's like it's. I'm just so critical. I'm so mad. The heart of it is I'm mad because I'm just disappointed because this game could have been great. I genuinely think this game could have been great if they had trimmed a lot of the unnecessary fat and they had put better pacing and they had cleaned up the story a little bit and the performance. Like I know Seb was talking about the graphics, but I remember looking at like this lava fall thing in the alternate dimension, and I had a closer look, and it was like 15 frames per second, and it just looked like water, but slightly recolored to be red and orange.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I just
Yeah.
the game is just not good. I'm tempted to say it's bad. I'll be nice and say it's okay. But if you want to go play, I almost said Metal Gear. We'll talk about that next. If you really want to play Bayonetta or Nier Automata or Devil May Cry, even DMC, go play those games. Don't waste your time like Seb and I did. Don't play this game. It's not worth your time. Even on a deep sale, I can't really recommend this game. It's to me, this is like my disappointment of the year. I'm not saying I had like game of the year expectations or I thought this was going to be amazing, but just to go from what I thought would be a solid title that would be fun, you know, maybe forgettable but fun, to just absolute mess. It's just a big bummer for me.
Yeah. Sounds like it's sounds like it's worse than a 6 out of 10 for you. It sounds like a 5 out of 10.
Maybe it's a 5. I don't know.
Yeah. I might be a little higher on it than you in terms, because I don't like it. I don't like it that much either. But I would say it's an average game. It's not horrendous. It's not Superman 64 or nothing like that. If you those games you mentioned like Nier Automata and Bayonetta, if you like those kind of games, you'll probably like this a little more than another person would. But the game is significantly worse than those games. Those games are like the best in the genre, and this game is like the definition of average. The best way to describe this game is mid. I think this game is very mid. That's why I think it's a 6 out of 10. Because 6 out of 10 to me means like mid. It's very average, very forgettable. It's not like horrendous, but it's not good either. It's just in that middle mediocre spot where it's like whatever. All right, so the big thing with me is this game feels like it's from 2015. It feels like it should have been released when Final Fantasy 15 came out, because the main character is just Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. It's a cheap knockoff of Noctis.
Kaiser is just such a bad. Shouldn't his name be Kaiser? Am I crazy? His name should be Kaiser, not Kaiser.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
Anyway.
you didn't mention this, but the voice acting is really, really bad. I think.
I just forgot, but yeah, the voice acting is horrendous.
It's like
nobody
bad.
ever sounds invested in anything that's happening ever. Anytime Kaiser opens his dumb mouth, I'm like, shut up, dude. I heard the Chinese/Japanese I don't know which voice acting is better, but I didn't bother.
I think the voice acting is where the Chinese like translation comes in factor. I think that's where the Chinese part of it comes into it, because the whoever directed the writing did a really bad job, and there was definitely a disconnect between the English voice actors and the writing. Because this game might have been better story wise if the actors were better. We already talked about the blank characters. I thought the beginning of the game was really bad. It was so dull. It took way too long to get going. Once you get Arena with you and you start getting the skills and everything, then it picks up a little more. But in the beginning section, oh my god, it dragged so badly. Another big problem with this game was the frame rate was so inconsistent. I would get a high frame rate, and then it would drop, and then it would high frame rate, then it would drop. Once I put on DLSS, it fixed it, and the frame rate still dropped, but it still stayed at such a high frame rate. I really didn't notice, but it was definitely there. There was several times in this game where it just dropped, and it was jarring, and it would sputter because of that. I had several bugs. There was times where I fell through the floor. There were times where I had crashes. I had like 3 crashes. The game would keep crashing on me.
I think I only had 1 crash.
Yeah, I that might be because of the Unreal Engine more than anything. But it was definitely an issue. We talked about the boring puzzles and the play designs, all that. All the gameplay designs. The health. We talked about the health bars. We talked about the boss fights being repetitive, and yeah, the gameplay just gets very repetitive. I didn't like you couldn't skip the cutscenes because I had to replay a
Yeah,
section, but
it's only if you lose to a boss can you skip a cutscene.
well, I think they changed
Um,
that though. I think they might have patched it because after I could skip, I was
oh,
allowed to skip any cutscene I wanted to, even the ones I
oh,
didn't do
okay.
yet. Yeah, so I don't know if they added that
Nice.
after, but it was definitely an issue. I was like, why can't I skip this? Because there was one part I had to replay again because I wanted the trophies. Because I didn't realize you can connect your PlayStation account to this game, and I wanted to replay like get a couple trophies to get a couple trophies in the beginning. But thankfully, I was able to skip the cutscenes. So overall, it's a 6 out of 10 for me. I think Dory hates it more than I do, but I don't
I
think
do.
it's. But I don't think it's
Yep.
a good game either. I think it's a 6 out of 10. I think it's very the definition of mid. I think if you like action games, you'll probably like it somewhat, but you'll probably get bored by some point because it goes on for too long. If this game was like 10 hours, I think this game would be a lot better. I feel like if this game was like 10 hours, I think it'd be like a 7 out of 10. And I would recommend it. I would check it out when it's on sale for like $15, 10, $15 if you like these kind of games. I wouldn't say just completely skip it. I don't think it's that bad, but I would definitely say get it when it's on sale, a deep sale. Like this is a great Steam sale game. This is not a game to buy for full price. And I mean I bought this game not full price because I got it on a Steam Key website, but I definitely probably spent more money than I should have on this game. This game I probably should have waited, look at the sale, the reviews and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really regret it. It is what it is. So get this game on sale.
Yeah.
Get this game on sale.
I'm more critical than Seb is. I mean, to me, if you want to be technical, that was my nerd voice. I mean, 5 out of 10 is the definition of mid, but I know that's not really how people think of it. I guess anything below a 6 is like horrible, basically, because nobody does that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
For
think
me,
a
it's like
5
a
is
very
bad.
light. It's a very light 6. Like I want to say for a while, I want to say for the first 5-10 hours, maybe 5 to 7 hours, this was a very very light 7, and then eventually the checkpointing, the padding, the writing just got so bad I couldn't excuse it anymore, and I was like, we got to go down to a 6. So
Yes.
I feel like for me, it's a very light 6. I can't recommend this game in general. I think if you really have this kind of itch, there are so many games that do it better.
Sure. Have you never,
Seb and I technically split it, and I think
yeah.
so. We each paid like I
25.
last thing. It's $70. It's $70 fucking dollars.
I got it for 50. I got it for 50.
That is outrageous to me. I think even if it was 50% off, I would still hesitate to recommend it. But you guys get it by now.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of this game. I think a lot of it is just disappointment, and it's just wanting better from this developer and for this developer. From what it sounds like, he went through hell.
Yeah.
And just not getting it.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend you buy it even on a deep discount. Seb does. I don't really. I'm not gonna hate my life over it one way or another. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But there's better games out there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make this your first purchase if you really want to get into this genre. Play something else.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking to the veteran people that like these kind of games, but I think this should have been a PS Plus game.
Yes.
That would
Absolutely.
have been a great PS Plus game for September. All right, let's move on to Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, our final topic and the main topic of the night. I'll start with the pros, as Dory led off with Lost Soul Aside, and I really enjoy this game. I think Dory does like this game better than me, but I really still love it, and I'll get into why I love it. First of all, the game looks beautiful. The Unreal Engine 5 just looks incredible. It really did an amazing job bringing a 2004 game to 2025. I thought it felt like a modern game in terms of the visuals. Like, it looked incredible. The character models look amazing, and the lighting in this game is insanely good. I am disappointed with the 60 frames, but fortunately it never dropped for me, at least, so it stayed 60 frames the entire time, so I didn't complain about that. Sometimes it would fall to 59, but you don't even notice that, right? Because it's like one frame. But it looked incredible. The game looked nice. I love how cinematic this game is, which was already in the original game too. It definitely captures Kojima's vision. I mean, it's the same game, but it captures Kojima's vision. I love the ability to hit the R1 button or the bumper button on your controller to zoom into something, to look at something. It really adds to the immersiveness of the game. I love how they modernized the controls. There's seamless stance transitions. There's nice, quick camo swaps. The stealth feels smoother. I love how nostalgic this felt. It doesn't change literally anything. So in a way, I appreciate reliving my childhood because when I first played this game, which is a top 30 game of all time for me, by the way, I played this game first time in 6th grade, 2004. So I was the age of my students now when I played this game, and it's very nostalgic for me. It's my favorite Metal Gear Solid game. It's one of my favorites. It's like probably my favorite like spy kind of game, that kind of genre in video games. And I also appreciated that there was a legacy mode for people who wanted to play the game like the original. So that was cool. I like that the codex was sped up, and then there was UI improvements as well. I thought the animations were, as I said, livelier and more expressive. I thought Snake's CQC moves and their posture shifts and all the battlefield scrapes and stuff all looked better. Like they looked very polished. Like it looked very clean. And I thought this game was a great jumping in point for new fans. Like this is probably the definitive way to start into the Metal Gear Solid franchise. So if you're like a newer gamer or you just never played Metal Gear Solid, this is a great jumping in point. I mean, obviously this is the first game chronologically in the series. Even though it says part 3, it is the first game. And you'll have a blast playing it, I think, if you like stealth and stuff like that. I really enjoyed this remake. I thought Konami did a great job. It's almost on the level of Silent Hill 2 remake, and I hope Konami remakes future Metal Gear Solid games. I know it doesn't have Kojima anymore, and I know Konami sucks, but they've done a good job with their remakes, and I've been happy with it. So, Dory, what about your pros?
Deb, mean, I gotta tell you, I played Lost Soul Aside for about 15 to 20 hours, and coming from that, where the writing is, let's say, not so good, to Metal Gear Solid 3, one of the best written games of all fucking time, arguably.
Which is funny because I did the reverse, so it's
jarring.
So it's jarring. It's jarring.
It was like I was man, and I had discovered fire for the first time. I had been living in darkness the whole time, and suddenly there were characters I cared about, plot lines that were interesting, arcs that could be followed. Everything felt like I could invest in it, and I loved it. And my imposter syndrome was right back, and it was like, no, you cannot write any better than this. You're a piece of shit. So I was like, we're back in business, baby. But seriously, this game, I love this fucking game. I love it a lot. I know that some people are cowards and don't like that Kojima spends 20 minutes talking about the intricacies of the Cold War. You're cowards. Don't play good games. Anyway, I'm not actually being serious.
Definitely a different era. Like this game's
the
pacing of this game, especially with all the cutscenes where like they go like history lessons, is for a different audience, not the TikTok generation.
It is for me. I love history. I love politics. I love poli-sci. I love philosophy. This is extremely my shit. I was very invested. The voice acting, the writing are so excellent. I don't mind. A lot of it's the stuff I already knew mixed in with alternate history that Kojima loves to do. But so that stuff never bothered me. I agree. It's not really, and we sound like old heads, but it's not really as much for the modern generation that usually get quick 5-minute or at most cutscenes. And there are some exceptions, but those are the general rule. Like I think of Final Fantasy 16, and even those big epic cutscenes were usually not longer than 5 minutes, maybe 10 at most. Just tremendous character work from everybody involved. Just lots of symbolism, lots of great arcs. I love Ocelot and how he goes from one character to another. I love how we discover like what made like Big Boss become Big Boss. All the stuff with the history of the Cold War and the tensions. You can really feel it. It's so immaculately done. It holds up so incredibly well.
Yeah,
And there's cool little things like you can change the perspective while you're in certain cutscenes, which Seb might have already said, but I wanted to add that.
I did.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with you. The storyline is a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest stories ever in video games. Like,
yes.
it's the exact same story. They didn't change a single thing.
Yeah, they didn't change anything. It was great the way it was, and it still is great. It really holds up. The characters are complicated and nuanced, except for Volgan. He's just a sadist. But for the most part, they're complicated and interesting characters, or they're so incredibly cartoonishly evil that I find it endearing
Yeah.
and lovable.
They
Except you, Fury. Fuck you, Fury. I don't know where the fuck he even showed up. He's not even at the beginning of the game, and then all of a sudden Kojima's like, "Oh yeah, there's this fifth guy called the Fury," and then he's like, fire damage everywhere. I hate that fight. I hate that fight.
the bosses in this game are definitely like very Wolfenstein. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this came first,
Yeah.
so I guess Wolfenstein probably copied them, but it was very,
Right.
like very goofy, over the top Cold War villains, or not. They're not Nazis, but they're like, Cold War villains. Like, they're
Right.
really goofy. They feel like Batman villains in a
Yes.
in a very serious James Bond setting. It's a very
That's what just explodes.
that's literally-
I mean, I love that
That's
shit.
literally what Metal Gear Solid is. It's like James Bond if like it was over the top Batman villains in James Bond. That's basically. I mean, I guess James Bond is that too, right? But like it's
Right,
even
right.
more like Japanese. It's very over the top. It's very Kojima.
Yep.
So.
A couple other things I want to say. I didn't play them, but it is very cool that this came with a lot of extras. The Monkey Ball Snake crossover is there. There's like like this weird grimdark action game you can play too if you beat the game. I thought that the camo system still feels really cool. I think it makes a lot of sense. It often felt very intuitive to me. I loved switching between my camos, and stealth always felt super rewarding, super like immersive in a way. Like I was very into what I was doing. I had a total no alert run, which I'm very proud of. I don't think I'd done that when I first played it, and it was also a non-lethal run. It's kind of sucks because you can't really non-lethal. Like they would be like, "Oh, Snake, that guy, he's a murderer," and I'm like, "I haven't killed anybody." The bosses just blow themselves up. They just start screaming their name, and then just Anyway, I was really nervous about the end, and thankfully I did get him on my first or second try, but that was a tough one too. But yeah, I mean the boss fights are just zany, over the top fun. Obviously the boss herself is just such a fucking classic. A really really cool fight.
Yeah.
And I legitimately, the last hit I did on her was CQC. Was a reversal of what she did, and then I hit her, and then her stamina went to 0, and I won.
Yeah.
I was very happy. It felt very symbolic.
It's basically what you're supposed to do because it's a trophy for CQCing everything she does to you.
Yes, and I got that. Yep.
So that's
yeah. And then lots of mommy issues going on in this game. By the way, just gonna put that out there.
I think the boss is one of the greatest female characters ever. Like I think she probably is the greatest. Like not the most iconic because like that'd be like Laura Croft or something like that.
It's so weird to me because Kojima can write amazing female characters like Eva and Boss, and then write other female characters like Fragile and I don't remember her name in Death Stranding, but like he could write such complex, interesting female characters that like I think Eva's great. Like I know like she's very sexualized, so that could be controversial to some people, but I think she used it as a way to empower herself and manipulate men around her, and she's a very interesting character. She's written very well. But characters like Fragile and I can't remember her name in Death Stranding.
Which one?
It's the one can't remember her name.
What color's her hair? Is it
know.
black hair or like blonde hair? Like Mama?
I think it's black hair.
Like Mama? Like that's her name. The girl with the glasses? Or is it with the girl with the blonde hair? That was Fragile.
I don't know. She has a really weird gimmick. Or maybe I'm just confusing her with Fragile because Fragile has a gimmick about rain, and maybe that's I'm thinking about Death Stranding because I'm thinking about Rain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Fragile. Either way, Fragile's a very poor, like weirdly written character who like absorbs like rain through her skin, so she's always got to be like half naked, and it's just very fucking weird. I will
Mhm.
say a wholesome thing that they did in this game, and I don't know if you know this, Seb, but you probably do. But they asked a lot of the models, if not all of the models, that they originally photographed in the original Metal Gear Solid 3 to post updated photos of themselves in their 30s, 40s, whatever. And there's like this one really cute one where she like one of the models is now a mom and she's holding her baby, and it's just really cute. I just want to shout that out. I thought that was very wholesome. Um, Somebody was like all snooty about it. It was like if Kojima did this, there'd be like essays written about it. And I'm like, they should. This is like the coolest thing I've ever not ever seen, but like it's very cool to like I don't know, like in a way I feel like it humanizes these models that
Yeah.
they might not have gotten the first time around, right? Because obviously they're just fucking
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and to use modern parlance, a lot of Kojima's stuff is just gooner material to some extent, right? Even in this game, you can just like use the modified camera to stare down like Eva's shirt or whatever, and she has it like zipped down. But at least like with Eva, and I know I'm kind of justifying here, but at least like her character is like femme fatale. She's like literally a riff on like the noir character, the noir trope. So there's like a reasoning for why she's like so scantily clad, and obviously she's trying to seduce Snake to get secrets out of him and shit. So like there's reasoning for it. I just feel like he kind of lost the plot eventually with that, but she's really well done. In general, the characters are very well done. I felt like getting a no alert and getting non-lethal was very satisfying. I will talk about the negatives of doing that experience, but yeah, those are about all my pros. I love this game. It's excellent. I do have some problems with it though, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, let's get into the cons now. So one of my biggest cons in this game was that it didn't have ultra wide support, which is almost unacceptable in 2025. Like I thought that was ridiculous because like this game could have looked really pretty on an ultra wide monitor because the game was really pretty, and I didn't understand why it wasn't ultra wide. So I'm hopefully there's a mod or something in the future for it. I also thought it was disappointing that this game had a 60 was locked at 60 frames per second. I didn't understand why. So again, that was a bit disappointing as well. There were several frame rate drops at certain points, but the big problem I had was not the frame rate drops. It was because I told you, like I said earlier, it's pretty much stayed at 59 60. It was more the glitches and the bugs and the crashes. There was glitches like the enemy AI would just glitch out and act up, and it was very frustrating. There was some bugs, pop-ins, things like that. I had like a couple crashes as well. Again, I think it's more Unreal Engine 5 problem, but there was a crash a couple times. Sometimes like I was watching a cutscene and then like it would just freeze and make a bunch of noise and then crash. So I don't know why I was doing that, but it was. The main thing I think I get negative about this game is that it really doesn't need to exist. Now, I'm not like I didn't hate it or anything. I'm not one of those people that be like, oh, you shouldn't don't spend your money on this. This is just a cash grab. I'm not saying that, but you just gotta be mindful. This game is the like Last of Us Part One. Like it's just the same exact game. I mean, the exact same game with a fresh coat of paint. They didn't change anything in terms of like the dialogue, the voice acting, the cutscenes. It's the exact same game, just prettier with some UI changes and some gameplay changes. It is a cash grab, but it's been 21 years, so I think it's fine. It's not as bad as Last of Us, which is more jarring because that was like not they remade it like a decade later. It because of that, it feels dated at times. This game does feel like a game from 2004. It has escort mission, which is really annoying. The Eva part. It has some of the stealth, which just doesn't age well for me. The healing system, I didn't really care for that much. Dory,
It felt tedious.
yeah, it felt very tedious. It just there's a reason why these mechanics are not in a lot of games anymore. And it's not because we have no patience anymore. It's just because some mechanics just don't age well anymore. They just don't work with different audience. Because you can't say I didn't grow up with it. Because I mean, I'm a millennial, but I also thought the loading screen when changing areas was a problem for me. It wasn't a problem as much as for Dory, But for me, I thought it was a bit jarring at times. Like there would be a cutscene, and like you when you like in the middle of the cutscene when you're like driving, like there's a part when you're getting chased by the tank, and like you're driving in the truck, and you like drive away. Like it for some reason there's a loading screen in the middle of the cutscene, and it was just very jarring. It feels like a 2000. It feels like a PlayStation 2 game still, and even though it's a modern game, because you're like when you transition to area, it should be like instant, but it was like a loading screen. So it just felt dated in that times. And the another problem I had was the checkpoint. The checkpoint system wasn't great. When you die, there's times you have to go all the way back. But I think the biggest problem overall for me was just the AI of the enemies. I think the AI was very inconsistent. I think they didn't follow. They like I don't know how they saw me at times. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. So that was like the main thing I had. I had the problem with it was the AI of the stealth was very consistent. But I really enjoyed this game. My overall point is that I don't know if it really needed to exist because they didn't really change anything. This is not Resident Evil 4 remake or something like that where like they changed the whole game from bottom. No, they didn't start from scratch. They started from scratch and they did their own thing in some parts and like that. No, this game is just like here's a fresh coat of paint on a 2004 game for the good and the bad. So it's not. I guess it's not really a negative, but I think people need to be mindful that this is pretty much the exact same game, and the things you like about that game and the things you don't like about the game are still in it. So that's my cons, which are not major cons, but definitely some cons. So, Dory, what about your cons?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of not push back, but to give an opposite perspective, I don't really care that it's a cat. It's one of those rare instances where I don't care. It's a cash grab because I felt like
Yeah, I didn't
I was
care
probably
either.
never going to go back to Metal Gear Solid 3.
Sure.
So I'm kind of glad that they did. Now, if I paid full price, maybe I would have felt different, but we split it, so I don't.
I'm not.
I totally see what you're saying, and I
Yeah,
agree that
yeah. It's not.
objectively it is just a cash grab. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not even a. I want to say it's not even a con. I just want people to be mindful that it is the same game. That's all I'm
Sure.
saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree it's a cash grab, but to me, this feels like it's been 20 years. I
Yeah.
agree they could have done more to update things. Like the CQC feels a little stiff at times. I
Yeah.
constantly had failed inputs. The Volgan 1 fight, I hate that fight because you literally get his stamina or health to half. There's a fucking cutscene, and then you don't get a checkpoint. And you can skip the cutscene, but that's not the point. There's no checkpoint at all for Volgan 1. And that's the hardest part of Volgan. Like when he's on the tank, which you would think would be tougher, it's easier because you just shoot the treads. And that's it. I agree about the inconsistent AI. I must have ruined my voice and probably some neighbors' ears a couple points because like I didn't have a suppressor at one point because I forgot about that the suppressors wear down. I hate that shit, by the way. Always gonna hate it. It's one of the reasons I don't jive with durability and Breath of the Wild and all that stuff. But I don't like that, and I didn't appreciate it being in the game. So I forgot that I was at a suppressor, so I went back to another area. This was early in the game, so to like a warehouse area. And it must have been an hour to get two guys who I just couldn't get in the right area. They would always see me. I would either peek out, or suddenly my camo would go away, or I wouldn't be able to get up quick enough, or I wouldn't know exactly where to go. And sometimes it felt like enemies could see through walls and shit. Like if my camo wasn't good enough, suddenly they could just fucking see me, even though I'm like behind a box or laying down or whatever. Right? If your camo's not good enough, I mean, it just I don't know. It was frustrating. Let's see. Yep, those are pros. There. I'm in the wrong part. Another thing I didn't like is that there's no, and I know the original doesn't have this, but I would have really liked quick saving for somebody like me who's going for no alert and for going for non-lethal. It really sucks to have to do a part over and over and over again. And as it turns out, I was able to use on the part I was stuck on for like a fucking hour. It was horrible. I like shot a barrel and exploded, but because I didn't personally kill the guy, it didn't count as me killing anybody. and then I just tranked the other guy and I was good. But like that kind of shit is like very frustrating. Made me just very upset. But yeah, I wish there was quick saving. That's something I really like about Splinter Cell and Hitman and other similar games is that you can quick save. And if you mess up, it's not as big of a deal, right? Because you can just start where you left off. But you can only manual save, and I'm pretty sure this is true, Seb. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you die after you manually save somewhere, you don't pick up from that spot. You still pick up at the beginning of that area, which is like, then why have manual saves at all? It doesn't make a difference. So I found that very frustrating. Um, let's see. Not being able to change difficulty is a minor thing, but I didn't like that you couldn't change it once it started. I know it was tied to achievements, but felt kind of lame. The accessibility options also felt limited, which I didn't like. Um, I kind of liked the constant loading screens just because it gave me a brief second to breathe. And also it gave me more consistent checkpointing where I couldn't do it before because, no quick saving. But I totally get where Seb's going. My voice is running out, so I think that's all I'll say. But for me, excellent game. In my top 5, loved it.
Yeah, I think it's a great game. Dory has it as a 9 out of 10. I have it as an 8 out of 10. So I still think it's a great game. It's in my top 10. It's like number 7 or something like that for me. And I had a good time with it. It was nice going back down memory lane, playing one of my favorite games of all time. And this is probably the definitive version. I have some issues that feel dated, of course, but overall, it's the best version of the game. I think people should play this game. Now, if you're like a purist of Metal Gear Solid and you know it very well and like you've experienced this game a million times, then I wouldn't get this game right now. I'll get it on sale. But if like, this is your first time playing Metal Gear Solid, especially the third one, then I think it's worth full price. I think it's fine. Maybe you can wait for a sale a little bit, but I think it's worth full price if it's your first time.
Oh, I want to say, by the way, I was confusing characters. So there's a character, a woman, literally named Fragile in Death Stranding,
yeah,
which in of itself I think is weird and
the girl with the blonde hair. The girl with the blonde.
The girl with the blonde hair, yes. And then there's also a character in the Phantom Pain that absorbs rain or sun or some shit through her bare skin, and that makes her invisible or something. I can't fucking remember.
I never played that one.
That she's half naked. Yeah, I didn't really care for Ground Zero or whatever the fuck it was called. I didn't really need Metal Gear in an open, like I liked it in 3 and 4 where it was like semi-open areas but mostly straightforward. And then 5 they're like, let's make it an open world game, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's why I didn't play it. I was just like, a Nicole Kojima thing too, I guess.
Yeah, and they didn't even finish the story, so it's like you don't even get a resolution.
Exactly. So that's why I didn't play it.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. All right. Well, I think that wraps everything up. Next week we're gonna talk about Chronos: The New Dawn and Hell Is Us. Both of us will have it played. I don't know if I'll have both of them be by the next week because I know I work full time and stuff. So we'll see. But I'll definitely have. I played a lot of Chronos to give an opinion already now though. So I probably put like 9-10 hours in that game. So I think I'm like halfway through that game. And then you just started Hell Is Us. It's really hard for me not to say This Is Us, which is a show, another completely unrelated show. But yeah. Hell Is Us. And Dory seems like maybe you seem like you're liking it so far. So we'll talk about it.
I'm liking it so far. I literally just got out of the demo area that I already played and liked.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to last any longer. It's very anti-me. There's no map. There is a compass, which helps.
Yeah.
And at least in the first section, the first hour of the game, there is like NPCs that help you and a pretty obvious like markings and stuff and wind chimes. But I don't think the game is going to do that much longer. I think that was very much a tutorial area. I'm pretty sure those things are about to be gone. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'll beat the game. I certainly will play Chronos and hopefully beat that. But well, it depends on how fucking hard it is. I guess I've heard it's pretty brutal.
It is hard, but we'll talk about that next week. All right, Dory, thanks for joining me, and have a good night. Thanks for watching, everybody, and peace. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.